Increasing concern over environmental pollution, and in particular that caused by the motor vehicle, has resulted in Europe-wide pressure to reduce exhaust emission. For petrol engine vehicles, this has encouraged the widespread introduction of unleaded fuels and catalytic converters to further reduce emissions. But what about the diesel? Well, the diesel engine actually produces quite low levels of emissions and certainly emits less carbon monoxide than a catalyst-equipped petrol engine. However, the biggest criticism of a badly maintained diesel engine is the emission of black exhaust smoke, which is soot particles of partly burnt fuel. This is not only unpleasant for the following motorist and damaging for the environment, it's also wasteful of fuel. An engine running in this condition is not only inefficient, it will eventually require more maintenance and repair. However, your new smoke meter from Dieseltune is not just an invaluable monitoring tool. It also equips you to perform MOT diesel smoke tests simply and accurately. The Dieseltune smoke meter has a large, clear digital display and includes an integral printer. The printout will record not only the test results, but will also print the name and address of the operator. A connection socket on the front panel also enables it, if required, to be connected to a personal computer for the downloading of information for office records, etc. Designed to be portable, it can be operated from a 240-volt main supply or a 12 or 24-volt battery. Furthermore, it can test all types of diesel vehicles, including cars, taxis, light vans, buses and trucks. There are 3 different probes available to deal with all types of exhaust tailpipes, including vertical stacks. A further advantage over many of its competitors is that the measuring head is capable of operating at temperatures down to -15 degrees centigrade and in wet conditions. This is a particular advantage during winter conditions, as it allows the vehicle's tailpipe and the measuring head to be positioned outside the building, where exhaust fumes can easily escape. The smoke meter works on the opacimeter principle. In other words, it measures the haziness of the exhaust smoke. Simplified, this is how it works. The vehicle's exhaust smoke is drawn into the measuring sensor by an electric fan. Inside, the smoke passes through a tube in which a light beam is directed. At the opposite end of the tube, a sensor detects the quantity of light that is lost by the presence of the smoke. The thicker the smoke, the more light is lost, and vice versa. Information from the light sensor is then analyzed and converted by the electronics into a digital display. For flexibility, the smoke meter is provided with a variety of functions, including, specifically for MOT testing, an automatic sequence. Let's take a look at how to use it. Let's start by briefly looking at the connections on the front panel. This socket is for the main supply cable into the unit, and next to it the on-off switch. Moving to the left is an analog output, which will only be required for certain special functions, such as driving a pen recorder. This next socket is for connection to the smoke sampling head, and adjacent to that is the input socket for an optional RPM sensor. The 2 final sockets are this one for the remote reset cable and this for connection to a personal computer. So, with the necessary leads connected, you can start the test. As it will be necessary during the test to rev the engine several times to maximum RPM, a little consideration should be given to keeping noise to a minimum. If it's a car, ensure the bonnet lid is closed, and in the case of a truck with a tilt cab, lower the cab. And of course, always carry out the test in a well-ventilated environment. Switch on the smoke meter and allow it to warm up. The warm-up time will vary between 5 and 20 minutes, depending upon the ambient temperature. So once switched on, it makes good sense to leave it on all day. During the warm-up period, the display reads cool. Once it's at the correct temperature, The auto test is selected automatically and the display will show hold. At this stage, it's vital to ensure that the engine is at the correct operating temperature and, most importantly, that its idling and maximum speed settings are correct. If required, the optional RPM sensor can be used. When you're ready to test the vehicle, press the reset button. The smoke meter will now self-calibrate and the ready light then comes on. Do pay careful attention to the ready light, as this prompts you throughout the test. Next, fit the sampling probe to the exhaust tailpipe. With the light on, depress and hold the accelerator to the floor. When the light goes off, release the accelerator and allow the engine to idle. When the light comes back on, once again press the pedal to the floor, releasing it when the light goes out. This procedure must be repeated at least 4 times for the MOT test to be valid. After each complete movement of the accelerator, the digital display will record and flash the last reading until 4 tests have been completed. After the 4th test, the average figure of all 4 smoke tests will be calculated and displayed. This is identifiable by the digits being constantly lit. This average figure must be compared with the maximum specified for the MOT test. If the reading is less than the specified maximum, the vehicle has passed and the test is complete. If, on the other hand, the reading exceeds the limit, then a further opening and closing of the throttle must be repeated. The meter will once again calculate the average of the last 4 readings and display the figure. This procedure can be repeated up to a maximum of 10 times, or until a pass figure is achieved. If after 10 tests the average figure is still above the specified minimum, the vehicle has failed the test. The vehicle will of course require further diagnosis work to determine the causes of the excess smoke. By the way, if for any reason the meter detects a rogue smoke signal while taking a measurement, it will ignore the reading and a further test must be taken. It can be expected that some engines will record a high smoke figure on the first couple of tests, followed by a lower figure on subsequent checks. This can be caused by particles of soot being loosened and blown out of the exhaust when the throttle is initially fully opened. You may find, on the other hand, that on some turbocharged engines, the smoke figures increase slightly during the test. It can be due to a residual amount of boost pressure remaining in the inlet manifold between throttle presses. This results in the boost pressure enrichment device delivering slightly more fuel. To terminate a test sequence, once the vehicle has passed or 10 tests have been completed, press the print button once. Then remove the exhaust probe from the tailpipe and press the print button a second time to receive a record of the results. It's essential that you remove the probe before pressing the print button the second time, as otherwise the smoke meter will automatically attempt to self-calibrate. For non-MOT test purposes, several other functions and measuring scales can be selected by pressing these buttons. The additional scales which may be required when referring to technical data from various vehicle manufacturers include Hartridge smoke units, Bosch filter smoke number, and milligrams of soot per cubic meter of gas. The meter will even display the temperature of the exhaust gas, and if you require it, you can select to measure either a single sample of exhaust gas or a peak measurement. Checking the idle and maximum speed settings with the optional RPM sensor ensures that possible damage to the engine is avoided and that accurate smoke test results are obtained. First, clean and polish a straight section of injector pipe and clamp the sensor securely in position. Then connect the cables and press Set 0. Select Engine RPM and note the display. There is very little required in the way of routine maintenance, other than replacing the printer roll and routinely cleaning the lenses of the measuring head. To replace the printer paper, simply remove the front cover and withdraw the empty roll. Insert the new roll feed the paper into the rollers and replace the front cover. The ribbon cartridge is, as you can see, equally simple to change. You will probably appreciate that during use, the lenses within the measuring head will progressively become covered in exhaust soot. Up to a certain level, this is automatically compensated for each time the unit zeroes itself. However, after a period of time, determined by the number of vehicles that are tested, the lenses will need to be cleaned. An indication of how dirty they have become is automatically provided via the printout each time the smoke meter is switched on. A reading of 0% will automatically call up an error code to notify you that the lenses must be cleaned. To clean the lenses, remove the top from the measuring head, pull out the lenses, and carefully wipe them with a soft cloth. Finally, refit them and replace the cover. That's all there is to it. To speed up the identification of any problems that may occur within the smoke meter, it's equipped with its own self-diagnosis circuit. This enables faults to be recognized and automatically displayed as an error code. A list of the codes will be found in the user manual. However, if you can't identify the fault, a call to the telephone helpline quoting the code should enable VL Churchill to provide you with a speedy answer. It's a vehicle inspectorate requirement that smoke meters used for MOT testing must be calibrated by the operator at least every 7 days. To save you both time and trouble, the DX210 has a unique self-calibration program, which means that a full calibration check is carried out completely automatically each time you switch the unit on. The smoke meter also provides you with a comprehensive printout of the calibration test result. An additional vehicle inspectorate requirement is that all smoke meters should also be calibrated annually by a qualified engineer. To relieve you of any concern, VL Churchill can supply a complete maintenance package to cover this requirement. In conclusion, the Dieseltune smoke meter not only qualifies you to carry out MOT diesel smoke tests on both Category A and Category B vehicles, it can also provide the service workshop with additional and profitable business. Furthermore, you can rest assured that Dieseltune's well-established range of tried and tested diagnostic products for the professional is there to support you should you require it. And don't forget, diesel vehicles make up an important and expanding market that shouldn't be ignored. So, for further information or the telephone helpline, give us a call.